Well, hello everybody. I have a really fantastic guest with me today, and somebody I really admire and look up to, and was really, really pleased when you answered my email, Lee, because I asked you if you would be in my little interview dealie, and you said yes, and I was over the moon. And then I had to think, oh God, what am I going to actually ask? Because I hadn't thought ahead of what you're going to do if you don't say yes. And you said yes, so then I had to really come together. But thank you for being here.
You're very welcome. This is fun, and I kind of thought, okay, I'm going to do this and fangirl a little bit because I always enjoy what you put out on social media. I'm usually on Facebook's where I find you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I never know what I'm going to say, but I challenged myself last January that I was going to say yes more often,
Yeah.
especially to things like podcasts and interviews and public speaking and things, because I get clammy hands and
Yeah.
I start sweating and heaven knows what I'll say. So I'm trying to get better at it because it
Yeah.
scares me. Yeah.
Well, you have a very, very eclectic range of skills, which is one of the things I really admire about you. I mean, you can ride side saddle for God's sakes, and write and train a very versatile horse, which to me is such an important skill. Not only a dying skill, but an important skill. Um, what's with the side saddle? Where did that come from?
Got chunky legs.
Yeah.
This this way I can hide them under. I like clothes. I really
Okay.
like clothes and I
Okay.
really like women's history.
Okay.
And I always love old gear.
Okay.
And it's something I can do with horses that are maybe their little light is maybe shone its brightest, and they're still fantastic horses,
Yeah.
but they can't go down the fence and turn a cow.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. They're maybe past that. And to be frank, so am I think more and more. So I got into that and I love the history of it and just it's something different, and I've been riding side saddle since I was a little girl because we had a friend of the family who was over having tea with my mother, and he was sort of an old pioneer from an old pioneer family, and he watched out the window as my sister and I were doing something. We kind of grew up free range. Nobody told us what to do. We knew nothing. We were ignorant. We did our best. He watched us fumbling around. I had buck teeth and I was always thick, and just we were pushing each other off our horses. And he watched her and he said to my mother, "Nobody's going to want them." And my mom was a little taken aback, and she was very beautiful, very glamorous, my mother. And he said to her, what they need to do is they need to meet my sister, who happened to be a side saddle rider in her earlier years. She was in her 80s when we met her. And her name was Winnie Harvey. And she'd actually joined it wasn't called show jumping at the time, it was called military riding. And
Okay.
it was all military teams from different countries. And they would go by rail with their horses everywhere, Europe, everything. And this is in between the First and Second War. And she competed. She had a special letter of dispensation so that she compete with all the men. And she competed side saddle on the military horses.
Wow.
And so she had all the gear. Was quite lovely. Her husband was a very crusty brigadier general, and that was our start of any sort of lessons or teaching. And she happened to ride side saddle, so that's where that all came from.
So
So
you,
a lot of my life is just being in the right place at the right time with
yeah.
fascinating people, and I would soak a little of that up, and then I'd move along eventually and go somewhere else. Yeah. But in this era, and I don't know about you, everybody wants to be a specialist,
Hmm.
a superstar, whether it's their horses or themselves or whatever. And it's certainly what we see, when we see the competition world and everything. It's people who have become really fantastic at one thing.
Yeah.
And I always feel like I kind of got dropped on my head, and I'm sort of okay at a whole bunch of stuff. And my whole life is whenever things got hard, I quit and I went and did something else. This is my pattern with
Hmm.
everything. And so I've always been just a snick ashamed of that. And then as I'm getting older and going, no, that's actually become a strength
Yeah.
because I can get weird horses or unsuitable horses for one thing into my life, and I'll go, hey, I bet and you fill in the blank. I bet you, with a little more help, you could go off and do that or whatever.
Hmm.
And it's served me well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually one of the things I wanted to talk to you about the most is that I have found that so many trainers don't, and I don't mean this to bash them, it's just the culture or the norm maybe, that
Yeah,
so many trainers have their specialty, like you said. And so if the horse won't get on the trailer, they can't do that. If the horse has contact issues, they can't do that. If the horse
yeah,
has
yeah.
trouble standing tied, they can't do that. And so that's how I got most of my business was training horses that other trainers referred to me so
Right,
that they
right.
could go back to their trainer. So, you got interested in a very wide variety of skills due to your
Mhm.
temperament, would you say, or just life experience?
A lot through my temperament because, like I say, whenever things get technically difficult,
Hmm.
physically demanding, monetarily beyond my means, I go, oh, I take my crayons and I go home and I go somewhere else. It's just the way I've always been. Um, but also, I live in an area that is so rich in horse culture.
Hmm.
It wouldn't matter whether I wanted to show jump, do dressage, 3-day eventing. We've got several retired British team members from international 3-day eventing living close. World working cow horse. Our neighbor is just won the Snaffle Bit for charity and
Wow.
is world's greatest horseman twice. It just goes on and on and on. So between um, shop makers and silver makers and saddle makers and trainers. It's like I'm half an hour from Spruce Meadows. It's we are in such a culturally rich environment here
Wow.
that if you don't find something that doesn't feel good, feel like you could do it, I'm not too sure if a person's really trying because there is something for everyone here in southern
Hmm.
Alberta. We were really fortunate when we ended up here. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what are the skills or personality traits could you say that you think um, people today could really benefit from to be very
Well,
varied?
an open mind, right? An open mind. And I have struggled with having an open mind because I worked as a working student for 5 years. I won't say I was paid well, but I worked as a working student for 5 years when I was younger for a German dressage teacher. And it was a fantastic environment because, well, she was really hard on her people. She was a horsewoman through and through. And Richard Voigtman was her teacher. And so there was no side reins, no drop nose bands. Things were very evolved really beautifully for the horses, and it was an extremely rich learning environment. And so I, without meaning to, because she made me suffer a lot, I kind of put her on that pedestal thing where I learned through a lot of painful experiences, and then I knew that what I'd learned was worth it and it was right. And I didn't want to listen to anybody else's methods. And this will
Oh.
happen if you have one great teacher.
Hmm.
Then I married into a ranching family who used their horses as a means to earn a living. And it's very hard for these people who earn their living on horseback, who ride from dawn until dusk and beyond. They really do know horses. They live with horses. They're not taking an hour lesson a week. And so my father-in-law became a huge mentor for me. And I began to bring that in. And so all these different experiences, I've always been surrounded by really strong people. And I've realized that it's up to us to be open-minded enough with a little filter as we're bringing in all that huge amount of information why, if one person says one thing and somebody says something else, how are their horses going? How does it affect the horses that they're riding compared to the horses that other people ride? Because I think while horses are often the same, they can take or accept different amounts of, you know, I don't want to say the word pressure, but different methods or whatnot. And so I really did learn to kind of to back off a step and really observe and think about what people are saying, doing, and teaching. And I think that's a huge skill.
Hmm.
We live in a world where we want to celebrate gurus, and maybe that's not the word.
Hmm.
But if we have had some success with a teacher, suddenly all of a sudden that teacher's the be all and end all. And none of
Hmm.
us is the be all and end all. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
We it's for me, I'm constantly balancing, Amy, between going, I know that this works for me or has in the past. So I'm going to stand firm here because I'm not ashamed of all the old stuff that I've learned and know.
Hmm.
I'm not, even if I'm told maybe I should be. I'm not. And yet, if I bring in too much new information, then I have this tendency to kind of veer from one ditch to the other. And
Hmm.
I'm seeing that as such a huge, huge issue right
Yeah.
now. We've got so much information at our fingertips. So I always say to anybody who's coming to me and they're really hungry for information and doing things, just pick someone,
Hmm.
pick a person and ride with them for 10 years. And they go, well, that's a really long time. Yeah, it's a really long time, but it actually takes me 10 years to figure anything out. Do you know what I mean?
Do you
If
want to
it
hear
starts
something funny
feeling,
in that regard?
yeah, what?
Not to interrupt you, but I've had my teacher for 12 years now, but at the 10-year mark, I took my old notebook from our first lessons and
Yeah.
I finished our last lesson at the 10-year mark and I looked at my notebook from our very first lesson. I was like, it is the same freaking lesson she's been teaching me for
No,
10
I know.
years.
So maybe you and I are morons in the industry, and we need to keep hearing the same thing. But until you've got to the stage where the horse does something, okay?
Yeah.
And you hear your teacher's voice in your ear,
Hmm.
and you go, oh yeah, I'm already doing it. You know, until you've got to that stage, you're still an active learner, and it's so hard. And I always think I want to ride with somebody long enough that I can actually be out doing what it is I'm doing and go, yeah, this is the appropriate time to do this or this or this.
Yeah.
And and to know, oh, okay, I need to correct my course a little bit so that I don't steer it into the ditch. Like it's knowing what that person would say to you, knowing what you need to do to further your horse without being told. That's that's the ownership part of learning that I think if I could urge anybody right now in this instant thing, like, just be with somebody long enough to stick with it.
Hmm.
I can ride with somebody for a really long time, and I'm sure you can too, and they'll say something and you'll go, no, I'll get gum out of my pocket right now. That little thing you're saying doesn't actually feel right to me right now. And it could be something really, really simple. Like I'm riding with a great person who often likes his horses, and I'm going to say bridled up
Okay.
more than I would. He's a cow horse guy.
Hmm.
And you and I would call it overbent.
Hmm.
And I'm like, he's got so much information that I just take it all out. But when he starts telling people to do that, I'm going, no, that's not for me. And
Yeah.
so I just, people don't have to be good people or bad people, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
I
you
do.
learn to take you learn to take what you need at the time. And I'm finding out that very often when I need something, those people or those situations come and present themselves to me. I don't have to look very hard to find them.
You know,
Yeah.
that's such an interesting thing you just said because you have such a wide variety of interests and you have such an ability to take on other interests, but you're also talking about staying with the same teacher for a decade. And it would be easy for a listener to think those are not the same skills or that they would not um, correlate, but I think that they really do. I think they correlate really, really well. That, to develop the stamina to get like to the same teacher to hear the same lesson for 10 years is a form of stamina, right? But then to stay open-minded enough to go ride with the bridle horse trainer and say, I don't like that, but I like that and pick and choose. I
Right.
think that's so important.
Because I think we all want to at some point you start to realize, well, at first everything you hear is new.
Hmm.
And then after a while, you start getting some muscle memory involved. And I find that the more that I can do something without actually having to think, the more I can feel.
Yeah.
So these are all stages in our learning. I happen to believe that everybody who is teaching should be a student of something, whether it's the violin or
Yeah.
whatever. And for me, the greatest act of self care is jumping my horse in the trailer
Hmm.
and going for a lesson. I
Hmm.
mean, even when I have an ugly snotty cry home, it's best for me, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I think you and I are similar in that we're riding different horses. And
Hmm.
whenever I watch anybody looking bored at their fingernails, wishing the teacher would move on to something new and exciting, I often think, oh, sweetie, you need to ride more horses
Hmm.
because even a very simple lope exercise where you're stopping, backing up, doing a turnaround, going in the other, and just really simple. Get on a 30 days colt and pull that puppy off with any sort of aplomb. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if once we start thinking we're a little bored, we
Yeah.
perhaps need to ride a horse with a few more question marks.
I sometimes get that in a clinic where, I'll give an exercise and I can see people starting to look bored and they're starting to
Yeah,
dodder off.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and I'll come over and I'll say, "How's that going?" And they say, "Oh yeah, I got it now." And I'm like, "Well, that's interesting because I've been working on that one for 10 years. So you must be smarter than me." Because
Whenever we're feeling like we know it all, we maybe just need to ride, and that might be a few other
Yeah.
things that if I could, we're in just such a fear of liability right now, and
Yeah.
justly so, right? I mean, we nobody wants to lose their home over a mistake.
Yeah.
But the fact that we don't tend to share horses as much
Yeah.
or have an opportunity to ride different horses, that's a huge thing, I think. Maybe a bit of a hole in a lot of people's riding.
Yeah, I think variety of horses and ride time in general, I think are pretty lacking. And even amongst not just amateurs, but even amongst trainers tend to like to get their type of horse they like riding. So
Hmm.
they might be a
Hmm.
really good dressage trainer, but they can't ride a young horse, or they can't ride a horse that isn't of their favorite breed. They can't produce a dressage horse that is a quarter horse or a Lusitano instead of a warm blood or whatever. They get so um, specific and narrowed down that they actually, I think they lose skill at that point. They start to lose their window of understanding.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all want to go with what we know we're best at, but
Hmm.
definitely with that, I think you said something there, and I was like, oh, I want to expand on that a little bit. And I'm looking out the window here trying to think. The I'm always aware of the fact that when I'm talking about something like this, that it's as though I'm putting down people that I know or
Yeah.
I whatnot, and I think everybody's doing. I'm in a season of my life right now where I'm riding less than I have since I was a small child,
Hmm.
which is crappy. I'm not happy about it.
Hmm.
But I do think that the whole 1 hour ride time is a hard thing because it's really hard to become central in our horses' lives if they're not seeing us. The reality, I think, with probably most horses is their person is probably the one who throws the hay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so they're not all that interested in who's actually writing the bills for their keep or whatnot. It's
Yeah.
maybe the person who takes them for turnout. Because I mean, most horses, I think, are probably in a boarding situation right now. So these are all problems that people are having to deal with that I admit that I don't know a lot about because I've always been fortunate enough to be living where there's a multitude of horses right outside my kitchen window.
Yeah.
And I try to understand that. Even with the training and whatnot, that's for sure. And a lot of trainers, once they get to a certain point, and I commend them for this, is they will not take on a horse that they don't actually like,
Mm-hmm.
which is a good thing because if you are training on a horse you don't like, poor horse, right? I
Yeah.
know if I don't like a horse, I'm probably not going to be nearly as empathetic or understanding or patient with it as I might be with a horse that I really love.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fickle that way. So it does mean though when people are only picking horses that they like, they're kind of shutting the door on the chance of building on their problem solving skills, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is what you're getting to in many ways. Um,
Yeah.
I remember riding at a clinic, and this guy's like a huge name from the States, and he's up. And somebody said, I need help teaching lead changes, blah, blah. And they're breaking it down. He looks at her, no word of a line. He says, if I'm on a colt that needs help changing leads, I'm not going to be riding that colt. I don't want that horse. And so, right there, that's like 98% of us are sitting there going, uh oh, because most of us are riding horses that are not so gifted as natural athletes,
Mm-hmm.
right? They need help doing things like that. They need help positioning their body and
Right.
building up sort of balance or whatnot. So I see that that's the thing in the industry too. If it's not a horse that makes it easy for me or makes me look good or is going to take me to the pay window,
Yeah.
he's not my problem. He's not my interest.
Trainer that ended up all of her students ended up selling their horses and getting this specific, not even the same breed, but within the same bloodline. Like they had to be a very specific type of horse. And she always put it that if you want to be an artist, you have to have the right tools. So I think if you're trying to get if you're trying to get to the Olympics or you're searching for a very narrow kind of way of
Yeah,
riding,
yeah,
that's one thing. But if you have that degree of skill to where you can create such refinement, it should be possible to a lesser degree with a less talented horse, I would imagine. Not as
yeah.
good, probably. Like if you try to take a Tennessee Walker to upper level dressage, you're gonna have harder work with lesser result, right? But
I would say, yeah,
but you
yeah,
but
yeah.
nobody else would have better skill at it than that person, I think.
Well, I mean, for me, I did wake up one day and start brushing my teeth, and I looked in the mirror and I went, I don't think I'm going to the Olympics. You know, it's just when I was young, I thought, okay, dream big, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's why I cantered so many circles with a woman screaming at me in German. But I think I'm letting that one go. But I have never considered myself a horse trainer.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm a lesser being that's actually a dealer. And
Okay. A wheeler and a dealer.
I'm a wheeler and a dealer. So even if something doesn't have a price tag on it, it kind of does.
Yeah.
It depends on how badly my truck needs tires sometimes. I have always, my husband and I have always had a horse each that is ours, period. and our children have always had their own horses. So we don't sell the kids' horses, sort of thing. But everything else that comes and goes is kind of fair game. And my skills have been honed because it's all on a value added thing. I'll see a horse and either it needs to know something entirely, period, because it knows nothing, or else it maybe could be brought along better, or maybe it's in the wrong discipline or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what honed me was buying stuff and having buyer's remorse the next morning. And then
Mm-hmm.
after I've dried my little tears, then I go, okay, what am I going to do about this now? What can we do to try
Mm-hmm.
and bring this horse around? That means that I have done the unpopular thing that nobody likes to think about. I have ruined a few horses in my day, Amy. And those are very hard lessons.
Mm-hmm.
But I think anybody who is in the business and doesn't admit to that, either hasn't ridden enough horses or has got a very short memory.
Right, right.
You do tend to learn an awful lot about horses that you've brought to a point that probably they can't be. And and while we like to say that all things can be fixed, I have tied horses too long beside the hinges on the trailer door, and they get their halter caught. And now we've got a 15-year-old confirmed puller to
Mm-hmm.
the death. You know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
have had driving ponies that are coming along beautifully that for whatever reason um, they ran away with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we've got them, they're traumatized, terrified. Their default is now a little different than it used to be before the incident. So I have ruined some things,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Yeah, I've done some bad things. So yeah, that's a part of my learning too that I respect hugely. But I don't know if I recommend it to anybody, but it's part of my story.
Well,
Yeah.
anyone that I know who has a large and varied amount of horses under their belt, who is really good at their craft, can agree on that, I think. And I'm probably denser than most, and that I have a large amount of recs in a short amount of time. But but I think that the more horses you get, the more you start to realize. Um,
Hmm.
that kind of stuff can happen and it sharpens you up and makes you realize your mistake a little too late. But we live in, I think, a time right now where people talk in such virtuous fairy speak, I think. Like if you were truly saw
Is that why I don't understand it? So much of what I'm listening to, watching, or reading, I don't understand. I don't get it.
yeah. Well, what do you make of these extreme opinions of if you were truly virtuous with horses, then you would never, or like bits are evil, whips are evil,
Mm,
and
mm.
any deviation, anything that is outside of this um virtuous kind of a thinking. I don't know how to exactly frame it, but
I
if
don't either because
you truly
I
loved
don't
horses, you would
I
never
know
hurt.
that as soon as always and never always gets me. It
Yeah.
never helps me.
Yeah.
Always and never. And
I gotta write that down.
right?
Yeah.
Just coming off the top of my head real fast. I try to avoid that. Um, more and more, I just want to stay down the really boring center of the road.
Yeah.
I just want to cruise along that way.
Yeah.
I, 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 whether it's whips, bits, trees and saddles, shoes on horses. I mean, I've got both extremes standing in my pasture right now. It's like so always and never again. I guess
Yeah.
it depends is the best method there is, right?
Yeah.
You know, I have had a lot of learning experiences simply because I'm cheap, and so I'll often buy horses that nobody else wanted,
Hmm.
and so you get that horse home This would also affect the people that are getting a lot of horses from rescues, for instance. uh, um, some of these horses can turn out to be very good horses for people. Some of them can't. So, some of them have already tried their best or been let down too many times or whatever. But when you start getting this sort of horse in your realm, very often you start having to get away from that always and never thinking and
Mhm.
starting to maybe learn some different methods, right? There's a lot of really good methodry in working cowboys every day.
Mhm.
A lot of them are also riding horses with sore backs and whatnot who could be moving better and everything. Like, I don't put
Yeah.
anyone on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses.
Well, you know
Yeah.
what's interesting to that point is you can learn a lot from those people. Like the cowboys that you say have horses going with sore backs or could move slightly better. There's some
Hmm.
value to be gained from what you observe them doing, clearly, right? You don't write off the entirety of what they're doing because of the one or two things you don't like. But
That's right.
people have lost that skill or don't know how to have that skill is to take what is good out of something without having to accept the whole picture, right? So if
Throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I do think if we're going to speak in cliches, we love reinventing the wheel.
yeah. Yeah.
That came to me. We have a little book club on my page, and we somebody said we're going to read Xenophon.
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, I'm a school dropout. Okay, so whenever there's required reading, I'm just like, oh. It's like when we had to read the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I almost died. Anyway, so I start reading Xenophon, and that was my take home from this whole book was we keep thinking we're coming out with new stuff.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
not. What are we kidding?
Yeah,
You know,
that's like 600 BC. I mean, like, don't talk to me about an invention that you created.
right? It's like, oh, okay. I mean,
Yeah.
he kind of lost me on all of the moving the horse troops around and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I'm hoping we don't have to go to war on our horses, but
Yeah.
it's like the whole thing was. I think that was my take home message. Is we rebrand it. We're big on branding,
Yeah.
but and we have to somehow if we're going to make a living and appeal to our people, we've got to
Yeah.
somehow get noticed. I get that, but none of it's really new.
Yeah.
There's always been good horsemen and ones who didn't, who
Mhm.
used them like transportation or whatnot. Yeah.
I got this one comment on a oh, I can't remember who it was. I posted a photo of a 1940s and I can't I can see the image in my mind. I can't remember who it is, but I got this comment of this man who was riding the horse in the Piaffe that I needed to show better examples because this man didn't have a helmet. And I was like, this is like the 1940s. I mean, he probably was a Nazi sympathizer, so we probably shouldn't go as far as you. We could just stop at the helmet, right? Because if we're gonna
Well,
like,
the whole yeah,
if we're gonna
and
cancel this
I
man over the helmet, let's cancel like the entirety of
the whole thing,
the
and I
whole
mean,
thing.
they're that's one place I kind of just don't go on my
Yeah,
page
yeah,
because it's a little bit like politics.
yeah,
You are not going to convince anybody's mind by making them feel dumb or bad or whatever. And
yeah,
if anybody really, really, really keeps pushing the issue, and I'm usually not wearing a helmet in my pictures or any of the
yeah.
people showing, and I just go poof into the great beyond. It's
But that's
another
that's
thing.
what I mean is that, let's say that I'm a staunch helmet lover, okay?
Yeah.
And I look at a photo of you on your horse looking beautiful, and the horse looks beautiful. Can't I just imagine a little photoshopped helmet in my mind on your picture so that I can then take the benefit out of the picture? Like, why do we have to throw out the 1940s dressage Piaffe
Well,
picture?
I mean, and anybody with any amount of learning knows that you know I still remember because when I was a kid, I showed pony hunters.
Hmm.
I still remember the exact year and show that I was at when Mr. Ted Crooks, who was the steward with the Canadian Equestrian Federation, that's now Equine Canada, came around the hitching rail and told all of us we could not compete in the equitation over fences class because none of our little black velvet hunt caps had chin harness on.
Oh.
It's like, we all went racing back to our various stalls and trailers and had our mothers fashion up. Mine took um, one of the spur straps out of my spurs and I held them up on either side of my head while she, pounded my cap down on my head. So I looked like I had a little strap. And we went in that way. I remember all of this vividly. One boy who did super, super well competed in on a large pony hunter in a tweed flat cap, like the old Pony Club manual, because we also wore tweeds and oh, baby blue linen coats and everything. It was like it was a whole different world. So I remember the exact day that suddenly you had to have, and that wasn't even a safety approved helmet. I was like, whoa. So whenever I see that, I'm always going, well, there was a life before that.
Well, that's what I
I
mean.
don't
It's a
I
different
don't
time.
know if we had more people hurt then or
Yeah.
not. I don't remember it. I don't know. I try to avoid the whole thing.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean is it was a different time. The expectation and the norms were totally different. So if you can't gain, I get this all the time with people in traditional riding and how horrible it is because horses don't need to be submitting to these aids anymore. They can be our friends. And I'm like, they absolutely can be our friends, but why do you have to throw the entirety of a system that has worked forever out just because of a couple things you find distasteful? Take those couple things out and then apply the
Was
system
it
to your
you
needs.
who wrote this? Was it this morning? Was it you or was it Andrea Mills? I don't know. Somebody wrote something about people going, but I'm not interested in riding that way. I just want to enjoy my horses. I'm going to trail ride. And I don't know who that was.
I didn't
As
read about
though,
that this morning.
as though
Yeah.
on one side we have the people that are living unhealthy, unhappy lives, finding fault with everything their horses do.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side is the people that are just enjoying horses.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, well, the flip side of that, of course, is you could still enjoy your horses and teach them to move in a way that doesn't mean that they get,
Yeah.
worn out 10 years early or whatever. Uh, and what is it that says that those of us that are wanting to influence how our horses are moving?
Yeah.
Because a lot of us have horses that maybe were not blessed by the gods to have beautiful bodies that worked in a certain way or whatever. What is it that we're not necessarily walking around unhappy, are we? Like I just, it's an interesting thing. There's a real split in the
Well,
between
when I
people who are serious and people who are love horses. It's
right, like it's bad. It's bad to want to influence your horse's movement because you can't love them. Like I had this when I had my rehab barn, I had a woman who had a horse with a serious lameness call me. She sent me a video of the horse, and the horse was visibly limping and looking miserable. And she says, I don't want to do any of the dressage stuff. I just want him to be sound enough to trail ride. I just want to enjoy my horse and take him out on the trail. And I said, I hear you. I understand that you don't want to do dressage, but it is the methods of movement in dressage that will make him sound enough to trail ride. And she said, no, no, I don't want any of that. I want you to rehab him for me to trail ride. And I said, if you take your horse with the flat tire out on the trails, you will degrade him. Whereas if I put him in the arena and do the things that I know that will make him sound,
mm-hmm,
you
mm-hmm,
can later take him out on the trail. And
mm-hmm.
she's just like, I don't want that. I don't want to hurt my horse. And I'm like, you will hurt him trail riding. You will not
Yeah,
hurt
it's
him.
it's there's a lot to be answered for with the two different faces we see on that word called dressage,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And because whenever we are doing something in a competitive nature or whatnot, we go bigger, better. But I mean, the once upon a time, and I think a lot of us are trying to live back in this with this idea that this training as it is was meant to help all sorts of horses.
Hmm.
It was just meant to do to help these ones that are born fantastic and
Hmm.
that will still look fantastic even if they're not trained in a healthy way.
Hmm.
You know, somewhere along the line, that's kind of got steered into the ditch a little bit. But I think there's a huge movement to
Yeah.
help everybody sort that out a little bit better.
Well, that's what I mean about extremes is the sport of dressage. If you think about it, most people get a bad taste in their mouth immediately. They either
Mm-hmm.
love it or they hate it, and they love it for the wrong reasons and hate it for misunderstood reasons. But
Mm-hmm.
somewhere in the middle of that are still good principles that don't have to be on either camp. And
I think so.
even further than that, a dressage horse can really benefit from a lifestyle like the one you live, where they go out and do stuff outside of the
Yeah.
ring.
And you know, it's the funniest thing. The horse that I brought home as a 2-year-old stallion for myself, he had the parents, the grandparents, money earning working cow horses and everything. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna. This is what I'm gonna do now. This is my new aim in life, and I'm gonna do cow horse on this horse. He was like, cattle, what else? You know, and he's like, and I'm like, give him a spur, like turn already, like pay attention, stop, fool, dude. And he's like, oh, okay. There's no way that that horse, uninspired as like he was ever going to be any good at that sport. And
Hmm.
then my daughter comes to visit me one day, and she's like me. She does everything under the sun, and she's dragging stuff out. Next thing I see them cantering over out by our truck yard, where the trucks and trailers are, in this huge pile of stones. And she's got my good cow horse prospect, English, jumping over and he is sailing, knees up by his eyeballs,
Hmm.
ears like this. And she comes back and she says, Mom, he'll jump anything.
Hmm.
And I'm like, he wants to be a pony hunter.
Uh-huh.
Bye, because I don't want to be.
Uh-huh.
So I made sure that he found wonderful people who do that and would appreciate him for what he wanted to do. But there are so many horses bred to be one thing,
Hmm.
just like we are, right? You might come from a family of great intellectuals or musicians or something,
Uh-huh.
and you took your first breath and went, "No, I want to do horses."
Yeah.
So, you know, anything else, you're unhappy.
Yeah.
And I see that quite a bit too. And just
Yeah.
because we've got the horses bred to be something, maybe that's not what he wants to be at a high level.
Hmm.
And I mean, and certainly, you know, if you had the Tennessee Walker that you wanted to do dressage or go do cow horse on, he's probably not going to take you to the pay window, but maybe he really likes cows, you know,
Yeah.
like, you know, I think that's the thing I love about horses. They have a sense of humor. I believe
Mhm.
it till my dying day. They love to mess with our minds, and they usually will try to get us out of trouble if they can possibly do so. But they're interesting characters, and I do love watching them and trying to figure out what they want to do, what they're thinking, what they don't like. You know, yeah,
I
good
think
one.
they're on a personal mission to teach and grow humanity at large. That's what I think, is that they are,
No, they're. I mean, like they're trying to make some of us be better people.
I know, it's really annoying sometimes.
There's a hopeless job right there.
They're
They
working really hard at it, but for
But
very
I mean,
little
that's
result.
another truth too, right? If
Yeah.
we've got holes, I've seen so many horse professionals in my life, people that I paid money to teach me for a while.
Mhm.
But I would watch how they treated their help,
Yeah.
how they would treat the people around them, how they treated their talking badly about certain clients or students or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And
Yes.
I'm going, okay, then there's a real big hole in that kind of horsemanship to me, because
Yeah.
humanship's got to be in there too. It's a thing for sure.
Yeah,
So
that's the
that
hard.
became, yeah, and it's out there for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting to watch somebody talking about softness and being ethical and to listen to the way they talk about their students or the way they treat somebody who doesn't have anything for them. That is very revealing to me. At that moment, it's like, okay, this is a show.
You pull in a little bit and you
Yeah.
go, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
It
this is a performance. This is not a lived experience.
it can be a lonely lifestyle
Hmm.
in that way. I think looking back, because I'm going into a different season again
Yeah.
than I have been pretty flat out for a while. It's been a lifestyle of always the feeling that I'm letting someone down.
Hmm.
So early on, it was maybe my children. Because when you're young and you're trying to put food on the table and blah, 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 you're so busy. It's hard. Well, you've got kids, right?
Hmm.
It's hard. It's hard. It's
Yeah.
this big balancing thing, and then you get the notice out of the backpack saying that your child's supposed to take 2 dozen cookies to school the next morning. And you know what I mean? And yeah, you've got half the barnyard under your fingernails, and you're like, okay, it can be lonely that way.
Yeah.
Um, um, Trying to make sure that you're around the right sort of people that tell you what you need to know,
Hmm.
uphold you when you need somebody to stand up for you, or to say, yeah, you're on the right path, or no, you're
Yeah.
not, or whatever. As I've gotten older, that circle of people that tell my truths, that have only good in mind for me, that's shrinking all the time.
Hmm.
It's I got this idea a long time ago that it was like high school. The winner was the person who had the most friends.
Hmm.
That's not the truth. That's not the way at all. It's it's a lot of um, being uncomfortable,
Yeah.
being kind of walking your own walk for a while. And it's like, and I think that's something that maybe needs to be reminded of everybody, whether they're in the industry or they're a student or whatnot. It's a lot of soul searching, or
Yeah.
there should be. Yeah.
Damn horses making us do that.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I think it's an easier, happier way of life if you don't. If
Could be. Yeah, it could be.
if if you've got things that you know for sure and you just go ahead and do them no matter what, I think it's probably easier.
I bet it could be.
It's,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So,
It's
what do you see as the future of the industry, and where do you hope it goes? Two separate questions. Where's it going, and where do you want it to go?
that's so hard. I'm going to admit to actually having some fear here.
Hmm.
I'm afraid of where horses are going, because in my lifetime, so I started riding in the late 60s, early 70s, competing. People kept horses even in town in their backyard. And now I'm seeing it truly is, in so many instances, lifestyles of the rich and famous.
Hmm.
Um, Particularly if you're going to compete or whatnot. But I've even watched 4-H horsemanship changing, and that a kid that's not on a $30,000 horse isn't probably going to do that well in 4-H.
Hmm.
And I
Wow.
know that's not what that organization was built for, right?
No.
So I'm seeing all of that, and I'm going, wow, when a good saddle might be 5 grand, and I just it's I like I'm going, I don't know what the answer is. I know that most barns don't want young people hanging around doing chores in exchange for lessons. We called them barn rats because, again, of insurance. It's a negative sounding response. I I even see so much the different factions growing farther and farther apart. The people that that want to win at all costs, and the people, and they're driving the industry, the horse industry, so much,
Hmm.
versus the people that are, um, you know, riding does not necessarily equate to horsemanship. They might keep their horses for other reasons entirely. They're just getting
Hmm.
farther and farther apart. And so, Amy, I don't know. I'm worried about it. I am. I think that it's getting farther and farther away for the average family. I don't know.
I've been in the industry less time than you. I have significantly less experience than you. So I feel like your opinion is more interesting to me than my own for that reason. But I've seen such a extreme change in a short time myself in who has horses, who can afford horses, and how
Hmm.
extremely different those two factions are. Is the show people who want to win at all cost and the people who just want to have a pet. It is kind of pricing out anyone else, and it's kind of getting more extreme to where people who, every older person I know who I talk to grew up showing for fun. They weren't
Hmm.
crazy show people who had crazy parents that beat them into being the best. They showed for fun. I can't imagine that. I didn't do
Yeah.
that. I can't imagine showing being any fun because of the experiences I've had in the dressage show ring, which is just like I would just set my money on fire and go cry in a corner for free?
Well, therein right there, when I was young, open showing.
Yeah,
Okay, where everybody was literally about the most versatile horse. We started out with showmanship in the morning. We
yeah,
did all the Western classes and trail, pretend reining. There was a costume class. There was English. There was hunter classes. These poor horses would be entered in like 18 classes over the course of a weekend or
yeah,
something. And like me, they weren't really great at any one thing, but they gave a really great effort.
yeah,
So we grew up with all these families every weekend from May until October. There was at least one show within a couple hours haul from my home.
yeah.
And so it was fun.
Mhm.
That was our social circle. We didn't go anywhere like other high school kids. There was no dating. We were at shows. In fact, that's how I met my husband. He was
Yeah,
doing the same thing. And
yeah,
it's like and so once breed shows really got big, and then hunters, and then jumpers, and people started doing disciplines. That I think that was the death knell of the ordinary horses and riders. But without that faction, I'm aware that where does it leave so many of us who are teaching and
yeah.
who are training, because we are teaching ordinary people and ordinary horses, most of us.
Hmm.
Where do they go and what do they want to do? And most of my clientele is now women of retirement age
Yeah.
who are either reliving the horse thing that they had when they were younger, or else this is a dream that they've had forever. And now,
Hmm.
that they're retired and their kids have left home, hallelujah, they're going to have a horse. And they are the driver of the industry too. They're the ones who are spending all the money going to the clinics
Yeah.
and buying jeans and everything else. But they're kind of an unheard faction in the horse business, really. And I don't know what the future is. I honestly don't.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
I can agree with you on all. I can't relate to the showing whatsoever because I can't even imagine, a show. The thought of going to a show, which is a long-term goal of mine, by the way, but the thought fills me with dread at the cost, the risk, and the miserable experience that I could potentially have. Like I can't even relate
well,
whatsoever.
I feel like I have to go to at least one local show
Yeah,
a year because I need to take my horse, whichever one is most ready to go.
yeah,
My horses need to get out and compete before I can sell them to somebody and say,
yeah,
this horse is going to be good for you to take. So I have to go do that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
it is fraught with all sorts of anxieties because perhaps I won't fit my shops this year and everything else. But the good thing is that at least once a year, my gear is getting cleaned. Very often it is not, you know.
Well,
So
that's
yeah,
better
that's
than I can say.
so enter a show, you know,
Then I'll
enter a
wash my
show,
hair.
and then you'll get your saddle will get cleaned. It's like
Yeah.
your hat
So,
shape.
what do you want the future of the industry to be?
Hmm. That's a toughie. I think one of the things that really worries me about the horse industry right now is strangely, because I'm not a scientific person, the genetic component of what's going on.
Hmm.
So I received a sort of an interesting email from an organization that had said, "Did you know that, for instance, Hackney horses and Cleveland Bays and some various pony breeds around the world and whatnot, all on the endangered list. Because these are breeds that actually that now that carriage driving is no longer a thing so much, you know, it's
Okay.
a hobby for a small percentage of the horse world. The quarter horses with all of their genetic disorders, because we now have like three, you know, major bloodlines, and it blows the top off my head, Amy. Um, I'm worried about it's to me the horse industry, horses as such are almost getting like apples in the grocery store. We've got Granny Smith, we've
Yeah.
got Red Delicious, and which aren't delicious by the way, but we've got so few um, active genetics going on that maybe the problem will be solved for us at some point. I don't know. I think fundamentally there's just things beyond my knowing or understanding that I wish that we weren't losing these ancient breeds at such a fast rate. I, I I wish that there was more to be done with people that weren't either going to the Olympics or yeah,
Yeah,
it's yeah. I think if I had a dream, it would be that there would be more celebration of ordinary horses and people.
I love
Yeah,
that. I
yeah.
think that the breeding world is turning into a potential Jurassic Park movie, where
Something's going on. Yeah,
we toy with
something's going
genetics
on.
and then we,
I saw
bring it
a
off.
very beautiful, and it stopped me because the garden and surroundings were so incredible. It was just dripping money and landscape designers, and it was a farm showcasing some of their Arabian
Okay.
genetics, and the horses were all coming out, the way they do, and their heads. I stopped the camera because I thought, oh, this poor horse is malformed somehow, and it's all bug-eyed, and all this little snoot all went out, this the seahorse snoot thing, and the flat croops like extremely, and all of this, and all of these things that are not meant to function well.
Mhm.
And I'm going, whoa, because the last time I'd actually watched Arab horse things was in 1978.
Yeah.
The breed looked really very different.
Yeah.
So if you take yourself out of it for a few decades and you tune back in, some of the things are a little shocking. They really are.
Yeah.
um, the thoroughbred issue, even, I find out that everybody's thoroughbreds are all descended from, was it Northern Dancer now, and
Yeah.
unsoundness is their hallmark. They go fast, they break down.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be too useful for any one of us. And so
Yeah.
got a lot of breeds in trouble right now. So I
Yeah,
think
we
that
really
needs to get
do.
sorted out somehow.
We
Hooray
need
for the
to
Heinz 57 horse.
and bring back versatility, I think would be great. Bring back the versatile sound
Yeah.
horse for
And
the
versatility doesn't mean that my trainer and I both show the same horse
yeah.
in ranch horse pleasure.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of, he goes in performance horse halter as well, and I'm like, well, yeah. So that's always been something that I've really, really, really admired in people and horses, if they
Yeah.
can do more than one thing. Takes us full circle again. we had one of Canada's great pioneers of cutting,
Yeah.
Bill Collins, at my mother and father-in-law's for lunch one day, years and years ago. And he was a lovely, gracious man. And in his barn was cutting horses, obviously, rope horses. He kept a bunch of jumpers in one end of the barn because his students didn't want to go anywhere else. And he could get on all these horses and school them and solve problems. And he was asking about what we were doing, and I was explaining how I was having trouble with a pair of harness ponies doing something or other. Oh, after dinner, let's go out and see what's going on with them. So this is Canada's top cutting horse man, looking at these two Welsh pony mares who are tossing their heads and pulling in various degrees and snorting fire and everything. And he goes, oh, I do this and this and this, changed a couple of buckles, and the horses went beautifully. And I'm like, oh, that's what we're missing.
Hmm.
You know, he could build a saddle, he could nail a shoe on, he could get a tractor going. This old fashioned thing of these people that could pretty near figure out anything.
Hmm.
Not still that gets my utmost respect even now,
Yeah.
because I don't see so many people offering that anymore.
No, you sure don't. You sure don't. How
That
close are you?
brings up,
Go ahead.
sorry, I
How
was going
close?
to say that just brings up my other thing too in my lifetime, and I'm worried about it in the future. And I love women. I think women are mighty, but I'm really worried about the fact that there aren't that many boys coming up into horsemanship.
Yeah.
Traditionally, our greatest teachers and our clinicians are so often men, which that's a curious thing because we do have great women riding. But
Yeah.
right now, I'm seeing the industry really heavy to women. Like, I
Hmm.
don't know about your clinics or whatnot. When I teach, it's all women.
Yeah.
If there's a man in there, it's a
It's a thing.
big noteworthy deal. It's a thing.
I
So
can I can
that's
count on
another thing
one
that's
hand the amount of male students I've had in my whole career.
yeah,
And and I'm
yeah.
lucky if they aren't just a husband whose arm was twisted into it for for relationship amendments of some kind.
Honey, we need something to do together. I
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
So yeah, no, it's so that no, no, I just went on a tangent there, but that just occurred to me. That's another thing that's going to play out
Yeah.
with a very interesting effect, I think, in future generations.
Yeah. I
Because
love
I do think we need male energy, whether people want to admit to it or not. And I think that there are certain horses that respond very well to women.
hmm
And I know in our family, we've had a number of horses that actually have preferred the men in our family.
Yeah.
They see me coming and they're just like, I'll pass.
Well, we need balance in general in all
Yeah. And
aspects.
yeah. And so I guess that's what you're saying is, as I hope in future years that there's some sort of a balance to be found. And I may not be around
Yeah.
to enjoy it, but I sure hope somebody gets to. Yeah. What were
Yeah.
you going to say before I interrupted you?
I was going to ask how close you are to Raymond, Alberta, because that's where my parents live.
Raymond, it is south of us. I think it'd be about probably an hour and a half, 2 hours away.
Oh, then I'm definitely coming to visit you. I'm going to knock on
Right?
your
It's
door
not a
and
bad go.
yeah,
Oh,
I'll come
it's
in.
not a bad go. I'd love to have you.
I'd love to come bother you. That would be a lot of
I can
fun.
put you I can put you on my Bronx.
That'd be great. I love that.
It's I'm I'm trying not. I'm actually in a stage right now where I'm not. I said to my husband, who has not bought a horse in the entire 42 years we've been married. It's me,
Yeah.
it's me. I said to him, we have to stop buying horses. And
Uh-huh.
he looks at me and he goes, yes, dear. Yes, dear. So I think what I'm hoping to do with this coming chapter of my life is have fewer horses
Okay.
that I bring along maybe to a little higher level of their understanding and what they can do,
Yeah.
rather than go for the quantity thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that all is really fun. I could listen to you talk forever, but I unfortunately have to go. But we could do a second one of these and talk about a lot more stuff. That would be really fun.
Well, it's been an hour, right? It's
Yeah.
been an hour. It was such a great honor to be asked
Well, thank you for coming
because I
on.
have nothing new to offer under the sun. I think what I have to say would be, it's a bit like staying in the middle of the road or riding with the same person for
Well,
10 years.
that's
It's
revolutionary right now. That is new to a lot of people. To any young person coming up in this industry, that would be new and revolutionary. And it's so needed right now, desperately.
well, thank you. And yeah, it's a little I'm big on common sense.
That's new too. That's very new. Some people have never heard of it. So, not you,
I'm
not new.
going to I'm going to go about my life this afternoon and think if I can come up with anything even more revolutionary and new and have it all on hand in case we speak again. I hope so.
Well, here's a great tip from me that's new. Don't fall off.
I try ever so hard. I try ever so hard. My saddles all have claw marks on them. And it looks as though I've been riding through, yeah, it looks like I've been riding through heavy bush or with wildcats around, but it's generally me grabbing for leather at
Yeah.
inopportune times.
Yeah. Well, that's not a bad way to live these times too. Just grab for leather
Okay.
and don't fall off.
There's the new t-shirts.
That's right. I love it.
Okay, Amy, it was lovely to meet you.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
And thank you for having me as a guest. I loved every minute.
Me too. Let's do it again. Okay. Bye.
Bye bye.